we've had a big problem with a woman governor from, you know who I'm talking about, from Michigan.
And you should be saying congratulations instead of asking a really snarky question, because I know exactly what you mean by that.
Well, you know, it's a sad thing. Look, she's a sick puppy, in my opinion. She really is. She got a lot of problems.
He really has a problem with taking criticism from tough women, and the list of women that Trump has attacked during the coronavirus crisis is growing. As the New York Times points out, it's part of a very clear pattern. Quote, as he confronts a pandemic, President Trump's attention has also been directed at more familiar foes, those he feels are challenging him, and particularly women. His attacks on women have stood out in part because they recall his dismissal of his 2016 Democratic rival Hillary Clinton as a, quote, nasty woman, and of many powerful women who have challenged him ever since. My friend Claire McCaskill is back, also joining our conversation, Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson. Eugene, we've also covered Frederica Whitfield, his attacks on Mika Brzezinski, our colleague. I mean, what do you think gives with a time of pandemic, not softening any of his attacks, but in some ways and against some women seeming to sharpen them?
It does. Look, I think this goes way back with President Trump. I think in part this is just who he is. He is just threatened by being challenged by a strong authoritative women. He obviously has a thing about Speaker Pelosi, for example, and it's clear to me that part of it is that she's a woman. There's some element of calculation in it. I think it's a miscalculation because look at the gender gap in his approval ratings, and you know, if he gets creamed in November, it'll be because of women. But you know, at those briefings, he always calls on you, Michelle Sindor from NPR, from PBS rather, to have the fight. He seeks out the fight, and so on some level, he must think it's either good television or good politics. I think he's wrong on the good politics part, but so part of it is involuntary, and part of it, I think, is deliberate.
Claire McCaskill.
Yeah, let me just say, I've got a little bit of experience with this. Having gone through a political career for decades, there is one common theme to men who irrationally attack women in positions of power. And what is always true is they are massively insecure. They are really threatened by women who are strong and smart. And there is one commonality that all the women he has that he's attacked have. They are strong and they are smart. And they have overcome. You know, he was given millions of dollars by his father. You know, he was, never really had to scratch and scrape and figure out how to achieve something when he wasn't supposed to, quote unquote. I mean, from bone spurs to, getting in a good school to being given millions of dollars to be able to do his career. You compare and contrast that to a Governor Whitmer or to a Nancy Pelosi or to Yamich, or to the other African-American reporter who he's gone after in the briefing room. These are women who have had to fight and use their strength, and they are not afraid of him. And he really doesn't do well with people who aren't afraid of him. And so it is pretty obvious to me what's going on. And I think, as Gene said, I think it's pretty obvious to most women in the country. It's not like we don't get this. And that's why if Donald Trump is not reelected, it will be because the women of America have just had enough. We just had enough.
Eugene, Brian Williams interviewed Donald Trump's likely opponent in November, Joe Biden. Let's watch and talk about it on the other side.
If you are indeed the nominee, can you share with us at least how many names are on your potential grab bag list for vice president? And if any of the figures who have emerged from this coronavirus crisis, thinking specifically of, say, the governor of Michigan, if any of those figures have lengthened the list?
She hadn't lengthened the list. She made the list in my mind 2 months ago.
So Governor of Michigan, not one of Donald Trump's favorites, Eugene, but Joe Biden's got his eye on her.
He sure does, and why wouldn't he? He said he would nominate a woman as vice president here as an obviously competent, popular woman, being seen as handling a crisis very well. With that sort of executive experience as a governor, gets under President Trump's skin. And by the way, she's from Michigan, a state that Joe Biden will need to win in November, and she could probably deliver.
You know, Claire, we've talked about so many of the women who have emerged as we've covered the Trump story. Val Demings in Florida, Kamala Harris and her as a candidate and as a senator, and her questioning of Bill Barr and others. It's almost an embarrassment of riches. Is Governor Whitmer, would that be a smart choice for the vice president? Should he be the nominee?
He does have a lot of good women to choose from, and I am way too smart to start handicapping the women on the list for potential vice president. But he really can't go wrong with what I'm confident are the 10 or 11 or 15 women that he's got on that list. They all have excelled. They all have shown strength in difficult circumstances. They all are qualified to be president of the United States. And they all will reinforce the fact that Joe Biden wants strong women around him. He's not interested in putting them down.
Claire McCaskill, I wish I could say it's nice to see your face, but we're struggling more than usual on the technological side. I trust you're in your beautiful kitchen. Eugene, thank you so much. So nice to hear from you.
Okay.
Thanks
Nicole,
to everybody who, yes.
No, I was just going to say we could put Claire on that list too, if you wanted, but just saying.
I'm sure Claire's on every list. When my prompter went down today, I said, have Claire anchor. Claire can do everything. Most of all, though, thanks to everybody for watching, for sticking with us through all of it. We're going to stick with you through all of it, every step of the way.